please join me in welcoming Alison Cork, MBE, to the stage.
I'm not sure I like her, but
well, I'm absolutely terrified about sharing, sort of being in any sort of like photographic kind of space right. with you. And but here she is. So if you didn't get to meet Alison beforehand, she's here with her book, which came out about 4 months ago, wasn't it? Something like that. Yeah. And she'll be able to sign it. Great Christmas present, great present to yourself. But we're going to talk about that a little bit now. So now I hope you can see. Do you want me to? We're going to reveal.
Shall I start by introducing myself, which might be the answer to the problem.
Okay, fine. All right. Okay.
Okay. So
I prefer being anyway. Okay,
in the spirit of honesty, and because it's relevant to the conversation, I'd like you to introduce you to myself, aged 57 or 58, and then that one over there is me, aged just touching 60. And I am 62 at the moment.
I don't want you to fall over.
No, it wouldn't be the first time, Sarah. But luckily these days it's not through alcohol. The difference really was a very pivotal moment, which we're going to sit down and talk about. That fundamentally, aged 57, I looked in the mirror and thought, if I don't do something about this, then I am going to fade into obscurity. I will just become one of those invisible women who doesn't feel heard or loved or important anymore or have any power. And I decided to take myself by the scruff of the neck and sort it out. And fundamentally what I did was change the way that I ate, moved, slept. So the basics. I've never taken a weight loss drug. I'm not demonizing them because I think for some people, my husband included, they are the only thing that works. So that's absolutely fine. But for me, I just wanted to feel that I was in control of my health and well-being. And while Sarah did a lovely introduction that talked about my interiors business, which it was until about 3 years ago, the impact on my life of losing weight and rewiring my health, which is how I describe it, was so profound in every respect, mentally and physically, that I completely pivoted my business. So aged 61, I decided to change my business, and it's now a health and longevity and well-being business. And I'm just about to launch, which we'll talk about hopefully, a health food product. It's a sweet snack, but with no added sugar, which has an interesting story attached to it. I don't know if I've told you the story, have I?
I've heard it. Do not steal all my questions.
No, okay, right. So we can
have lunch next.
And we'll leave her there because she's quite a good, she helps me discipline myself when I've got my hand near a cinnamon swirl.
I think that is just great, actually. But I'm very pleased I'm sitting next to this one rather than that one. Although I can feel a little bit more sort of connected with that. And without naming names, a friend of mine said to me just now, I've bought a book. It's absolutely amazing. But I've got to the bit age 57. I just need to do the 57 to 62 bit. There we are.
The age is actually irrelevant. Never too late at any moment.
Never too late. What I might do, can you see, or do you want us to move that back? Shall we move?
Yeah.
I don't know what I call you. Previous Alison to new Alison.
There you go.
Can you? Okay, there we go. Right. Okay. There you go. After a big night out, Alison can't stand up in that one, but she can stand up in that one. So what I want to know is actually how you got that into the club and kind of what people's reactions were.
They fold up, so I was managed to get it through the door discreetly.
So tell us about that pivotal moment. So there you are. I mean, you write about it in your book. I think it's page 1. I promise you I've read the whole lot. But it's page 1 where you go, most of us have had that moment when we look in the mirror and hate what we see. Now, I'm just going to do a poll. Has anyone ever felt like that when they look? There you go. Okay, but not everybody. Okay, great. So that's good. So tell us about that moment. What was it?
Well,
because you've been sort of content up until that point almost, Well,
I think I just hadn't really critiqued my own way of living. So I used to be a restaurant critic in my 30s for 10 years or so. My first ever TV show was essentially a cookery show. So although I'd never really analysed it, I've always loved food. I'd never really sort of thought of it in that way because I was in interiors, so I was thinking interiors. But actually, food has been the most consistent theme through my life, and more specifically, eating with gay abandon, because I just love food. And I get up in the morning because I want to eat breakfast, not because I need to get up. And no, this is completely. I did a sort of little bit on Instagram yesterday about why I'm no longer ashamed to be a greedy girl.
Yeah.
Because I am. And so I'd eaten vicariously all my life and could, sink a bottle of wine, and that was no problem. And had brought up children, had run a business, and all of these, you were saying earlier about putting everybody else first. And there were just many pillars of activity in your life, especially if you're a working mum, but regardless, there are. And got to this point, which was during COVID, when I just happened to get out of bed and, Marilyn Monroe style, could see everything, and and caught myself looking at myself in the mirror as I walked past it, and just thought, "Good God, how did this happen? How did it come to this?" And I just realised that being on telly, you learn how to dress, you have your makeup done, your hair done, you can make stuff look better than it is. And I just realised that actually I'd reached a critical moment, and I wasn't really feeling very happy about myself, if I was honest, but I was quite good at disguising it. And I just thought, if I don't do something now, age 57, 58, I am going to go over the top of that hill, and it is going to be down the other side. And my mother's 92 and still with us, and quite with it. And I was thinking, so I could have 40 years of life ahead of me. Surely, with we all have gained experience at this point. These should be good times, the best times, not times of obscurity and apologizing for yourself. So that was when I just suddenly thought, no, come on, girl.
Well, it's so interesting, because I think it's, it does tie in so well with that kind of that pivotal moment of midlife and that transformation, where you need to put yourself, you need to take your health seriously. It's not rocket science. You need to take yourself by the scruff of the neck, but it is that you looked at yourself and you said, yeah, this is it, and I am going to make that my priority. And I think that is, again, it's so interesting, because I think so many of us will feel the same. Where you that actually how much better you feel for it, and how empowering that is when you start to look good, feel good, and people comment on it.
Well, interestingly, whilst it's nice when somebody pays you a compliment, I've probably spent far too much of my life, especially because I'm a broadcaster, worrying about what other people think of me. And actually what that moment was about was, what do you think of yourself? Are you happy, Alison, with yourself? And it was that look in the mirror moment, which is, I don't think this is enough. I think I can do better. I think I can squeeze more out of life. And so it was actually, quite selfishly, a me moment, not a what everybody else thinks moment. But that's part of growing older, and I think growing a bit wiser, that you actually genuinely care less about what other people think about you.
That's true, but it's then also the ripple effect, what you're now doing, with your books, with your, if you don't follow Alison yet, you should absolutely on Instagram. I warn you, she's up very early, aren't you, sharing her insights and things, and I saw that one about being a greedy girl and stuff, but it's, but again, you are this, you lift others, and it's that great mantra that I think is so important, how, we rise by lifting others, and that's exactly what you're doing. And I think that now, through your own example, you're saying, look, I wasn't too bad in how I looked then, but I feel so much better now, and this is how I did it. So you're imparting with a great sense of humility, I think, how you did that. So let's go back to the magic bullets, because of course, weight loss jabs and things are very much, in the media. And I think I was listening to Jeremy Vine the other day on Radio 2, and they were talking about it. What are your thoughts about weight loss jabs?
So, as I said earlier, I absolutely wouldn't demonize them. So my husband has struggled with his weight all his life. Yeah. He's currently 25 kilos down, and that's because of the weight loss jab. It's the only thing that's ever worked for him.
25 kilos?
Yeah, he was a big guy.
Hang on.
Well, I lost 30 kilos. I lost 5 stones. So I lost a small person.
Cool.
No, I mean, when I say I ate and drank, I mean it. There were a lot of cinnamon swirls in my life. Anyway, so I would never ever demonize the weight loss jab. But as an individual, my approach to health and well-being, which has largely been formulated in the last few years, is less is more. I'm not a fan of medication. I've never taken HRT for the menopause. I don't even take aspirin when I've got a headache. I try through food and movement and sleep to deal with most of because your body is amazing. That's what I've learned. Your body is incredible. And I'm trying to give it a chance to do the job it was built to do. Now, again, I'm not against conventional medicine. And if it was a particularly serious life or death moment, or I was told you absolutely must take this, I probably would. But I avoid it if I can. But I wouldn't demonize the weight loss jabs. But what I would say is that I am walking, talking proof that you can lose weight and become a better version of yourself without taking them. And I do worry about the long-term impacts that none of us know yet. None of us.
Yep, absolutely. And what about sort of the other end of the spectrum, ultra-processed food? Because again, I think we'd all be not being 100% truthful if we said we didn't have that as part of our life. What are your thoughts about, can you ever have an ultra-processed food, or what are your thoughts about them?
80-20 rule. I like to live life. I still have a drink. I still eat a cinnamon swirl. The thing is that life is for living. Therefore, there has to be a dose of reality mixed in with all the sort of good intentions. Ultra-processed food is bad for us. Again, it's one of those, I often think, why have we got a spike in cancers in 40-year-olds, in relatively young people? And I asked a skin cancer doctor this recently, and he said he personally felt that it was related to ultra-processed foods and actually environmental pollution, which is interesting. But the point is, if you map the 40-year-old generation against when ultra-processed foods became a thing and were a very common part of what's on offer in the supermarket, there is a bit of a correlation. And I do, I worry about all the ingredients that one sees in these ultra-processed foods, if indeed you've got time to read the label, and quite frankly, who has? Yeah. So I do eat them. I mean, look, it depends what you define as ultra-processed. Yogurt is a processed food. Yeah, but it's not ultra-processed. Bread is ultra-processed. And it's actually, if you said to me, well, just simplify it, Alison, it's about sugar. Yeah. Added sugar, refined sugar, as opposed to natural sugars, I think are a huge problem because they're so hidden in so many of the things that we eat. And they are related. We've got nutritionists in the room today who I think will back me up. Studies have connected sugar with obviously cardiovascular disease, obesity, diabetes, but also things like dementia and cancer. Yeah. I mean, my mother has dementia. It's another story, won't go into it. But, all her life, she's eaten loads of sugar, like 3 spoonfuls in each coffee, and she drinks a lot of coffee because it was the thing she couldn't have in the war. So when she could have it, she just went for it. It's just really, really, and that's not proof that it's connected, but I'm just saying that it's really interesting, and I think sugar is a problem.
Absolutely. And coming sort of back to that 80-20 rule. So you've admitted you do fall off the wagon occasionally.
Yeah, of course.
So when you do, what is it? So we can all feel. Are we talking? Is it sort of is it cheese and onion crisps, or is it is
well, now you're
Maltesers, or so go on, Alison. This is it's a safe space. There's only about 100 people here. Your secret's safe with us, and it won't stop your book being sold. Don't worry.
Well, I still like a drink, but I'm very careful because I find that I'm obviously what they call an A-type personality. Because when I have one drink, I want another one, so I have to be very careful about that. But I do like a drink.
So we'll do an evening thing with you next.
See what happens. I do like a bag of truffle crisps, particularly partial to truffle crisps. What do I like? I like cakes. I mean, I'm half German, and we are good at cakes. Yeah. Yeah,
but maybe why don't you just sort of digress a little and share the recipe for your, that amazing cake you did at the when we did that evening at White Cocoa, and your chocolate date balls.
Do you mean the chocolate orange date balls?
Yes. Okay. Just amazing.
Do you want the story about where they've gone since?
Not if it's going into, because that's a question for later.
Okay,
and you're just and my sort of postmenopausal brain just won't cope with that. So, but anyway, yeah, she does it, Kate. So it's okay. So she falls off a wagon.
Yeah.
So you've admitted to that list, but you can still look like that. Okay. So let's talk about exercise, because that's the other thing. If you follow Alison on Instagram, at about sort of 6 o'clock in the morning, you're busy stomping around Hyde Park or you're in the gym and stuff. And talk about that importance of movement.
So the thing I learned is that what you eat and how you eat is 80% of what you're going to weigh. Okay, so what you eat is the largest contributor to your weight, if weight is the thing that you're concerned about. Weight training will give you a definition and a shape. It will help you expend calories, but actually it's food. So if you're talking weight loss, it's about food. If you're talking definition and strength, which is incredibly important for everybody, but especially for women in the second half of life, and bone density and that kind of thing, then weight training is what is going to give that to you very efficiently. And we're all busy women, and 3 hours a week is enough weight training to keep me really strong. And strength means you're less likely to fall and in later life. And if you do fall, you're less likely to, through osteoporosis, have issues resulting from that fall. And falls later in life are the greatest predictor of end of life.
Well,
so
look at the late, great, Dame Jilly Cooper, and he died this week. That was a fall at her home, wasn't
just
it?
A fall. I mean, just a fall.
Yeah.
But look what happened.
But actually, I remember you telling a story, I think it was here, and I think it's worth sharing it again, where you did have a fall. And
oh, yes.
And actually how you felt that, go on, share it.
So I did some stuff at QVC for about 14 years. And one day I was going in for a meeting. This was just about a year ago now, I suppose. Was going in for a meeting, and it was a rainy day, and there's a big lake outside the building, and there's a boardwalk, a wooden boardwalk, and I had, as usual, very high heels on, and I was walking towards the building for the interview, the meeting, and all of a sudden I just felt, it's like that sort of thing in a Disney film where somebody sort of flies into the air and then smacks down on the ground with great sort of extravagance. And I literally felt my body flying into the air because I just completely slipped on this slippery, slimy boardwalk and landed absolutely down one side, so shoulder straight smack into this hard surface. And it must have been dramatic because about 5 people ran over, and I think they fully expected me to be at least unconscious, if not dead. Yeah. And I just sort of lay there for a few seconds and and the first thought that came into my head was, which bit hurts the most, and don't move it because it might be broken. And then after a few seconds, I thought, hang on a minute, nothing hurts at all. And this very handsome young man.
There you go. There are some real benefits to this.
Offered his hand, so I just lay there for a few more seconds, looking injured, not, and then got up, and I was absolutely fine. And I absolutely put that down to the fact that I have grown so much stronger. And also it's all this strength training and stuff is linked to metabolic age. So we can talk about biological age, but actually that is largely irrelevant other than your passport. It's your metabolic age that matters. Yeah. And because that is the age your body is telling you that it feels and can operate to. Yeah. So that's the one to focus on.
Absolutely. Now, just before I ask the next question, actually, one of the things that I want to say is that quite often when we do these fireside chats, you're just burning with a question, and by the time we get to the end of me asking Alison questions, you can't remember it, or you think, maybe that question isn't quite right or whatever. I would say, if you want to put your hand up, if you want to ask a question, or you just want to sort of put up your hand and say, yeah, that's brilliant, or make any comments, we don't mind. Obviously, again, sort of bounds of reason, as it were. But so if you want to put up your hand and ask a question, then please do that as we go along. Yes. I think it just works really well. The more interactive it is. I'm in that luxurious position of being able to sit here on the sofa and ask all the questions I've always wanted to ask Alison. But you, I'm sure, will want to ask us some questions as well. So don't hold back. Don't be shy. You talked a little bit just now about that kind of almost like that sense of freedom, almost. And I think, again, I think talking to you is almost like you're the linchpin. You're that really important bringing everything together from today, where it is, this kind of transformational moment that we go through in our 40s, 50s, 60s, even our 70s, is where you're literally able to grab your next chapter by the scruff of the neck because you feel liberated and free to do so, whether it's you're financially free, whether you, in your case here, we're talking about your health. What makes you feel liberated?
Well, if you'd asked me 5 years ago, name your top 10 priorities in life, or even your top 20, health wouldn't have been anywhere on that list. I never even thought about it because I was vertical. I took it for granted that I was kind of healthy and okay.
Yep.
And now it's number one on my list. And it is the thing from which all else flows. So what health has brought me, if I could only use one word to describe it, it probably wouldn't be freedom, it would be joy. I think I'm a happier person because I feel so much healthier and everything feels calmer and better. And whenever there's a problem, I'm more able to deal with it.
Very interesting.
And at the end of the day, and I'm much less materialistic than I used to be because I've just put it in perspective. It doesn't matter anymore. I gave away my car. Sold lots of clothes and belongings, am selling my house, and just don't want assets. I want to live. I want experiences. I don't want things. And I've spent all my life being in interiors, like the epitome of materialism.
Yeah.
So it's a complete...
It's just real. Again, it's that kind of almost like that inverse, isn't it? Because there you are again on QVC, talking about Christmas.
Selling stuff.
Basically. Yes, I was going to use the word flogging, but that's not quite respectful enough, is it? But it's sort of, yes, promoting lovely, beautiful sort of homewares and stuff and things. And so here you are.
I love beauty. I just don't feel I need to own it anymore.
Yeah, but it's almost like, again, that sort of that period you go through of accumulation, building. And now it's actually lightening the load to be able to enjoy it.
Well, I still want to keep building, but building different things, building experiences.
Yeah.
And eating is an experience. Sorry to bring it back to food, but I mean, it is ultimately always about food. It's about, travel and being with friends and having experiences and eating and spending time with my kids, not nagging them and just enjoying their company and just doing things that I've always wanted to do and not worrying about, I don't know, is the carpet clean or stuff like that. So I just feel a much greater sense of freedom is a word, but actually just a greater sense of joy about life, that I feel that the best is yet to come, which is a nice thing to be able to say in your early 60s, because where we started this conversation was that this is a time of life when many people think, women especially, it might be at the top of that hill and I'm going down the other side and I've just got to put up with it. And I would say that's absolutely not the case, and that your 60s, 60 is the new 40 as far as I'm concerned. And it's about new beginnings. It's about new beginnings. And there's always a new beginning. It could be a new interest. It could be a place you want to travel to, a food you want to try, a friendship you want to create. It's all about beginnings. And being curious. Curiosity is a massively important aspect of longevity.
Absolutely. You can't ask for much. Oh,
sorry. Didn't see that.
Dr. Fitzpatrick, please.
Fantastic conversation.
Oh, thank you. You can come again.
One thing. Mission accomplished, I'll stop. One thing that's really struck me the last couple of minutes you've been speaking is about that shift from being an interior designer and focusing on material things and what you can gather to what you can experience, build, and express.
Yeah,
fair assessment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And what I'm really interested in, because I'm very interested in movement, I'm an orthopedic surgeon, and so I speak a lot to my patients about empowering themselves through movement. And what I'm interested to hear from you, given what you just said, is going from this to this, has that changed your perception on what you put out in the world, and also then your perception on what your kind of responsibilities to yourself are, and what things are most important to you? Has that been a material shift because of the change in appearance, or was the change in appearance because of you started shifting first?
I think that the change in appearance was just something that was a physical manifestation of something far deeper that was going on in my head, which is I instinctively feel, which I'm sure most people in this room do, that I have more to give, that I want more out of life, and I am curious and or greedy to find out what it is. And movement is a really interesting subject, because when you move frequently and you are physically stronger, you feel both mentally and physically empowered. Now, one of the reasons I go out early in the morning is because I believe in the importance of early morning light on the face. That makes me feel more positive. So I'm walking, I'm feeling more positive, I'm getting my steps in, I'm becoming stronger as a person. And all of those things lead to other decision making. So I promised myself when I got to my goal weight that I would trek to Everest Base Camp. And I did, and that was a real moment, because I would never have thought myself capable of that. I didn't particularly enjoy it because it was so cold, but I wanted to prove I could do it, and so I think that movement is. People think of movement in terms of fitness and just, but it's actually the mental impact. That I hope that's an answer to your question, but it is the mental impact that really, for me, has been so seismic. And movement is a non-negotiable part of every day of my life. I literally gave my car away, couldn't be bothered in any way. It's just a pain to be a driver in London. Got some wonderful walking slippers from these ladies at the back of the room, which I can highly recommend, and just walk everywhere, and it's amazing. And it makes me feel a much more positive, happy person.
Thank you very much for that question. Please keep them coming. So I wanted to drill a little bit more now about ambition.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, you just sort of leave me speechless a lot of the time. You know, I will ring you up and say, what are you up to, Alison? You go, well, I've had an idea about 5 o'clock this morning, and it's about 10 o'clock, and I've already sort of put it into action. And, you know, which is where the ever so slightly annoying bit.
Well, I've only got 40 years left.
Well, exactly. But you're not in a hurry. You're an achiever. I think there's a difference. But talk about that sense of ambition. You know, was Alison Cork growing up? Were you born like? I mean, not. You know, sort of were you born like this? But I mean, you are, and you're going to get to tell the story in a sec about the chocolate date balls. Is that, you know, were you born with that sense of ambition, but you do it, you go for it, and I think that's incredibly inspiring.
So it's actually, joking aside, I think it's a really interesting question, because my parents, by their own admission, they are the loveliest, most gentle, most normal, unambitious, and I mean that respectfully, people one could wish to meet. And so there's no entrepreneurship in my family. Nobody has ever run a business. At no point did they ever, I always say my parents forgot to tell me there was something I couldn't do, but neither did they ever sort of sit there sort of cracking the whip saying, come on girl, you know, got to get those grades, and what about the brownies, why haven't you got your gold badge, or whatever one gets at brownies. And so I don't know is the answer, but what I can tell you, and I do think sometimes I'm of the opinion, I think that the essence of who you are, you're born with. I do think this, because when I was 5, I started a business. Why? Why?
What was it?
I picked up the conkers off my granny's garden and polished them up and persuaded my classmates that if they bought these conkers, they'd win every conker competition. And then I had the money confiscated by my teacher because she saw it in a matchbox and thought I was playing with matches. And she took the money. I was most indignant, I remember, and I said, but I earned that fair and square, Mrs. Jackson. I mean, Claire Willis didn't have to give me 6p for those conkers, but she did. Anyway, so years later, I was about 15.
So hang on a sec, what happened to the money?
She gave it to the church.
Oh, okay. Or so she says.
So she says. Yeah. Well. So I was 15. So
Mrs. Jackson's not in the audience, is she?
No, I don't think so. But fast forward, I was 15, so about 10 years later or so. And I was walking near my home, and she was at the bus stop. And I said, oh, Mrs. Jackson, do you remember me? And she said, I think I do, actually, Alison. And I said, Mrs. Jackson, you owe me 5 shillings and 6p. So anyway, so clearly entrepreneurship, maybe I don't know where it came from, is the short answer to your question. The next business I ran because I got into debt as a student and needed to find a way out because I knew my parents didn't have the wherewithal to just get me out of debt. So I started a publishing company, and it all went from there. I've forgotten the question. What was the question?
I can't even remember now. I got slightly distracted by Mrs. Jackson.
I need to take more lion's mane.
I think we need to hunt down Mrs. Jackson.
Yeah.
So it's that sense of ambition, because it's interesting, because you obviously came from a family that was contented with their lot, as you know. And
that's a very good word. My parents were content.
Yes. Here you are. You've got an MBE. It's the list is so impressive.
I think, look, to answer your question, I've always felt a sort of fire in my belly, and that's actually not something you necessarily want to wake up with every morning. Sometimes it's a curse, and you just want to put the fire out and say, "Can I have a quiet day, please?" But if it's there, it's there, and I suppose it's because what I said earlier, sort of half jokingly about being a greedy girl. I am greedy for life, and the older you get, the more conscious you are that it is finite. And I do sort of play with the idea of reincarnation, hoping that might be true. But basically, I don't think I'm coming back as a butterfly or anything else. So this is it. This is it. And whether I like it or not, technically, I'm now 2/3-ish of the way through. So it matters how you spend your time. And therefore, for me, every day is a new beginning, and there's and I'm never without a goal or an ambition, because I think that's what keeps you alive.
And I think what's really interesting, here you are in your 60s, I think that is an incredibly important sort of role model to the younger generation. Where you sort of think it's all ahead of you, but you really grab every opportunity, when it presents itself. So tell us about the Richard Branson moment.
Okay, so this book that I wrote, I promised myself all the recipes in it, which I created, would have no sugar in, and I created a chocolate orange date ball, which has no added sugar. And every time I made it, principally and firstly for Sarah at the back there, whom I've known for many, many years, who works with me, Sarah was really the one who encouraged me and said, "Ali, these are delicious. My husband loves them. He can't stop eating them.
They are. I mean, they are really
You've
good,
got to
aren't they?
sell these commercially."
Yeah.
So I was thinking, that's a really good idea. Maybe I should. I'll sell them on TikTok. So I thought about TikTok. I thought, yeah, that could work. And then one day I was standing in my gym, Virgin Active, and I was standing in the cafe, and I looked at the menu, which was really balanced and healthy and nutritious. It's a South African brand called Kwai, which was sold to Virgin Active. And then I looked at the shelf that had all the quick sweet snacks, which are sort of pre-packaged. And I thought, this is woeful. This is a really unhealthy offering of these highly processed protein bars, which in any case I can buy in Sainsbury's, so you're not offering me anything new. They're expensive. They're probably not very good for me. And they're really at odds with the Virgin message of health and wellness and the other items on the menu. So I thought, I know what? Virgin needs to sell my chocolate orange date balls. And we always have dinner together on a Friday. It's like a non-negotiable. So every Friday I'd be banging on at the dinner table about, I need to contact Richard Branson. I DM'd him. Of course, he didn't answer. Sent him a video. Silence. Started DMing Holly, his daughter, complete silence. So I wasn't getting anywhere, basically. And then one day, this was only in July of this year, my son texts me and says, "Mum, I'm in Virgin Active in Mayfair and Richard Branson's here." And I said, "How long's he in the building for?" And he texted me back and said, "I'm sorry, Mum, only about 30 minutes. He's filming something and then he's off." So I thought 30 minutes is enough. So I put my running shoes on.
From these guys over there?
Which weren't at the time the QLBRs. And I belted across Hyde Park, which I could do, of course, because I lost my weight.
Without falling, and if you did, it wouldn't matter. And
tripping on a tree branch or something. Yep, got there. It was July the 11th. It was hot. I was pouring with sweat. Went downstairs to the basement. There he was. Went up, thought I'd be polite, do it the right way. Went up to his assistant. He had a whole team of people around him, and he was filming, and said, "Could I please speak to Sir Richard?" And she said, "Absolutely not." Clearly, this sweaty, mad, sort of postmenopausal woman wasn't doing it for her. So I thought, okay, Alison, this is a moment, and you've got to grab this moment. So don't make a fuss, stand back. So I stood in the shadows, literally. And I waited, and there was this second when they all turned their backs to check his video. And I thought, right, this is it, go for it. So I went up to him, and I said, "Sir Richard, my name is Alison. I have an idea for your cafes. It's a sugar-free sweet snack. I need to pitch you. It's incredibly important. And just looked him straight in the eye. And to his enormous credit, he looked me straight back in the eye and said, well, go on then, pitch me. So I did. And I could literally feel the hot breath of his secretary on my neck. It's like, silly bitch, what's she doing? I told her not to. So anyway, so bang, 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 pitch. And he just looked at me and he said, I quite like that idea, Alison, because we all need to eat less sugar, don't we? I said, yes, we do, Sir Richard, we absolutely do. And he said, well, your good fortune today is that my global head of marketing is standing behind you. So he introduced me to Andy, who, cutting a long story short here, introduced me to the global head of nutrition and the MD of the cafes. And then they said, we'd like to meet you next week. And I thought, oh, holy crap. I only have one flavour, no packaging, no brand name. What are we going to do now?
Over to Sarah.
So I said, well, I'm travelling for the next 2 weeks, so could we meet on July the 28th, please? And buying myself a bit of time. Yeah. And they said, yeah, that's fine. So I thought, oh, thank God. So I spent 2 weeks in the kitchen like a whirling dervish, creating 4 flavours. Meanwhile, the guy I've worked with for years on branding developed packaging, and I came up with a name, which I'll reveal in a minute. Yeah. And went back on July the 28th and pitched in the Virgin boardroom. And July the 28th was my 62nd birthday. And it was such a moment for me because, and Sarah was with me, she remembers that. And it was such a moment because I thought, not only am I getting a chance to launch a new business, which at 62 you'd probably be told is not a very wise thing to do, but it's just this excitement and feeling of possibility in life, which is what we're really talking about. So anyway, so I pitched, and then I sweated for a week, and got an email which just said, despite the fact, Alison, that you have absolutely zero track record of producing a food product for commercial sale, we are going to give this a go because we really liked your presentation and we love your product. Because I took samples in so they could taste them.
Oh, amazing.
But I thought it was so funny because they were saying, the odds are entirely stacked against you, but we're going to give you a go. And we're going to launch this in Virgin Cafes in spring 26. So I now have...
So now you're really going
now
for it.
I'm really up against
really
it.
In the kitchen. Amazed you got time to come do this. But isn't that an amazing story? For those of us who've got sort of young adult children or something, it's just that you never know. You never know what is what. And when that opportunity presents itself is to not even pause, just go for it.
When somebody hands you the ball, you run with it.
Yeah.
It's the only thing you can do.
But it's that inner sense of ambition, life's experience, that you knew it. You were clever enough to sense that moment when it presented itself, and also how to navigate your way around the system to do it.
But that's because we've all been around, by the time you get to your 50s and 60s, we've all been around the block a few times. Or
as my mother would say,
you've had a good paper round. So you recognise things perhaps faster and for what they are more than somebody 30 years younger. There was just no hesitation. I knew that this was my moment. I had to put my shoes on and run across the park. I knew that I had to, despite the opprobrium of his secretary, go through and pitch and on from there, and so it's an opportunity and it's a moment and you have to take it, and I'm just very excited about it because it's a whole new business. I mean, goodness knows where it's going to go.
But terribly exciting. And so tell us the name.
Yes, so the cafes were founded by a South African guy, and they're called Kwai Cafes, and he sold them to Virgin and became the CEO of Virgin. His name's Dean Kowalski. And I was looking at all the words that one would want to use for a brand that's about something made of only 6 ingredients. It's whole food, it's raw, it's vegan, and all those things like pure, source, origin, they've all been taken because it's 2025 and everybody's taken the names. And then I like linguistics, so I thought, let's look at Afrikaans as a language because it's a South African brand. And I saw a word that instantly resonated, not least because I'm half German, and it's a word that exists in German as well. And in both languages, it means wholesome, delicious, and made of good ingredients. I mean, that's my product. It describes it. And it's lekker. So I called it, and my mother, when I was a kid, I suddenly remembered her saying to me, Alison, eat your greens, they're lekker lekker. So I thought, that's it, it's called lekker lekker.
There you go. So look out for it. Well done.
Yeah. So it's spelled L-E-K-A, L-E-K-A. So it kind of rolls off the tongue. I think it's got a nice sound to it. It sounds delicious. Sounds like you want to eat it.
It does. It does, doesn't it? So I think also that sort of bringing back, you know, you're talking just now about curiosity. And I think, you know, again, that sort of sense of again, in that sort of second half of life, it's that time to go back to that sense of curiosity, that childlike play, as it were. And I love this quote in the book, which is, be constantly curious and seek friendships with people of all ages. It's the most life-affirming practice to stay relevant and engaged with the world. It's almost like it's the magic recipe for longevity. So what makes you curious?
There's so much I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, they say that wisdom is knowing how much you don't know.
Yeah.
And there are so many things I'm interested in. I mean, food is like a whole new opening to me, which didn't exist in my life 5 years ago, other than I just wanted to consume it. But now I'm interested in what it's made up of and the benefit it has to people. So it's curiosity for life and just wanting to keep learning. I mean, I know, you know, we've said earlier on that life is finite, and of course it is. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't want to keep learning, because all we know is the here and now. And maybe what went before, but I certainly don't know what's coming. So it's about living in the moment. And I think probably historically I was someone who was always talking about, I'm looking forward to this, I'm looking forward to that. But now it's about, what am I going to do today that's interesting and different and is going to satisfy my curiosity about the world around me? And the world is infinitely interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's made up of people, and people are interesting. And curiosity and surrounding yourself with people and being part of a community and interacting with other human beings is the greatest predictor of longevity. It stands above what you eat and how you move and how you sleep. So your sense of, which if anybody's read is it Dan Buettner? What's it called?
Someone's going to have to help me out here, but yeah.
The Blue Zones, thank you. Yes, the Blue Zones. A great book. And they analysed all the places in the world where people regularly live to 100 or more, and they analysed the common denominators, and community came top of the list of predictors of longevity.
Really interesting, really interesting. I want to finish with, I guess what you talked about, that kind of fire in your belly. And I think there is this sort of driving sense of passion that comes out from you, you know, where it is, you know, you've talked here before about what you've done for female entrepreneurs and your life as a, you know, running businesses and investing in women. But it's that kind of sense of renewed vigor that with each chapter that you embrace, yes, you're here for the here and now and you absolutely treasure it and relish it, but it feels like there's this sort of sense of passion that burns away in you to achieve, to do it. And so where do you think that passion does come from?
I do think it comes actually from my parents to a large extent. I think, as I said earlier, I think you're born with an identity, and I think there's a little bit of it that probably was there at the beginning. But I think the fact that my parents didn't pressurize me and never placed huge expectations on me, they just, as I said earlier, forgot to tell me there was something I couldn't do. So I was brought up with a sense of, you can do absolutely anything, which for a girl in the 60s was still relatively unusual, which is why I like to help other women now start their own business, because when I started my first business in the 80s, there were very, very few female role models. And so I think I would like to put that down to my parents because of their sort of unwavering, quiet, probably often terrified support for, you know, what the heck is she doing now? I mean, I always remember when I turned down a BBC traineeship scheme, which was like, you know, coveted, and my father just sort of looked, he didn't say anything, but it was the look on his face. He was aghast, because for him that would have been the epitome of achievement, and I just knew it wasn't for me. It felt like the civil service. And I always remember my exit interview from university, where my professor sat me down and said, well, we've all had a good chat about you, Alison, and do you want the good news or the bad news? And I said, can I have the bad news first, Professor Easterling? And she said, well, not one of us has any clue what you're going to do in life. And I said, well, what's the good news? And she said, not one of us is worried about you. I thought that was
That's amazing.
It's a really amazing thing to
you
say.
You haven't done too badly, have you? And
but the point is, none of us knew, but none of us, we didn't worry
But
too
you've
much.
taken each chapter, each turn, by the scruff of the neck.
I think you should reinvent yourself every decade, a bit like Madonna.
Yeah, yeah. There we go. Well, we'll see if we can get her on next. If anyone has any questions, now is the time to put your hand up.
Or with the books at the back. It doesn't.
But also with the books.
Yeah.
But the good news is the chocolate date ball recipe is in here.
It is.
I think there's 65 recipes in here from
47, but I share more on my newsletter, which is free to sign up to. So feel free.
Yep, perfect. So please be sure, this is absolutely fantastic. I want to finish with a quote, but I don't know if you want to read from the book. Do you want to
No,
read
go on,
anything?
I don't know what's coming. You tell me.
I want to read this. This is my favourite quote from the book.
Is it?
And because I think it's what so many of us, can be sort of just bashing on with life, bashing on with, kind of juggling all those different responsibilities that as we sort of navigate our way through. And I think this is a wonderful pause moment where you saw yourself in the mirror, you said in your own words that you felt you could do better, and here you now saying, I now look in the mirror and actually like what I see. Who doesn't want to do that? I feel strong, sassy, confident, optimistic, energetic, and quite certain that my best years are now ahead of me, as opposed to long behind me. You are in your power decade. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.